When you're about to deliver a presentation, do you get really nervous? And if yes, do you want to overcome your fear of public speaking? In this video, I'm going to be interviewing a veteran broadcaster who recently put up a free masterclass on Spotify entitled Overcoming Your Fear of Public Speaking. In the interview, he ends up sharing more than just tips on public speaking. He actually shares nuggets of wisdom about overcoming fear, all sorts of fear in general, which will of course help us to lead better lives. In this video series, I want to introduce you to some of the talented coaches, trainers, and facilitators that I've met over the years. You know, they say that there are only two types of people during the pandemic: those who are really acting out their worst, and those who have found a way to tap into their skills and abilities and share them with other people. And that's what I want to feature in this video series. The people who are making a difference, the people who are shining their light in the world such that this pandemic turns out to be one of the brightest events in human history.
A lot of high-ranking executives, they really became very technically proficient at what they do. But if you ask them to deliver a presentation, a lot of them would say, no, I don't want to do that. So what have you observed, George, about, because I know that you've also coached a lot of executives in the field of communication. What are some of the things that you noticed about executives and when it comes to presenting?
Ego.
Wow. Can you just say more about that?
Well, you're an executive. You don't want to be embarrassed, right? You don't want to be seen as someone who doesn't know what he's talking about. That's number one. Number two, you don't want to commit a mistake. Now, I keep on asking those people who tell me that, why are you scared of speaking in public? Because I'm scared I might commit a mistake. And I always ask them, is your name spelled G-O-D? If not, then you're not God. Why are you scared of committing a mistake? There are some people who are scared because people are looking at them. And I tell them, you're in front of hundreds of people, and then nobody's looking at you. How would you feel? So it's all a matter of ego. You just don't want your ego to be pricked. So what do? You cop out. But the thing is, you just don't realize the impact you could give if you just share your knowledge with everyone. Probably that's another thing. Some people just don't want to give it. Why? Because they don't want to share their knowledge. They're just too scared of doing that because they think that these people who are listening to him right now might get his job and eventually overtake what he's doing. We can't be here forever. Somebody has to take over. So that's been my philosophy. I just pass on what I've learned for the past, I've been working ever since I was 15 years old, straight out of high school. I'm now 66. I guess that's one of the reasons why some people tell me, George, share your knowledge. Of course, after how many years, I must have somehow collected a lot of knowledge. And what am I going to do with that? It's just like money. I can't bring it to my grave. So you might as well share it with someone who might be able to use it and probably share it with some other people and, make this world a better place.
Wow. Yeah. I never thought of it that way, but I guess, George, when you said it's ego, so a lot of them have probably gotten a reputation. Let's say they're a vice president or a senior vice president, and they're afraid that if they make a mistake, people are they're gonna look bad in the eyes of these people who admire them simply because they have a title. And the other thing that you said was, well, if they want to be selfish with what they know, they're not going to share that because they don't want anyone else to be as good as they are.
Yes.
Very interesting.
That's so funny. Like they don't want to commit a mistake. The funny thing is, when you're in front of a group of people giving a talk or training or a speech, nobody will notice that you committed a mistake unless you show it. Why? Once you're there in front of others, it is presumed that you're the expert. So whatever you say is the Bible truth to them. I've handled a lot of communication classes, and I tell them that. And they said, George, but you don't seem to commit a mistake. Are you kidding me? Ever since we started this class, I've committed probably about 10 mistakes already. And you never noticed it because I didn't show it. So it's all a matter of psyching yourself up that you're going to do it. If you commit a mistake, hey, what's wrong with correcting yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. My primary advice to my students is for you, first of all, to accept yourself. Be able to accept yourself for what you are. Why? How can you expect other people to accept you if you can't even accept yourself? Once you're able to do that, you cross the barrier. You now accept that you have your faults, you have your strengths, and you do something about it. I guess another thing that could be a reason is laziness. People sometimes just don't want to prepare. They want to take what? Their comfort zone. I know this already. Why do I have to prepare for something else? Had I adapted that kind of attitude, I wouldn't have been a trainer now. I remember the first time you brought me to this facility in Makati. I didn't even know anything about call centers or training. And then all of a sudden you told me, hey, you're going to start. What was my reaction? Okay. But of course, deep inside me, what the hell am I getting into? But apparently, it was a blessing.
Wow. Yeah, George, that kind of reminds me of, I don't know who said this, but he said something like, if you're given a business opportunity, just say yes, and then figure out how to do it.
Yeah, that's what I do. Like, I keep on telling my students, you guys are lucky. We never had Google before, right? Now, I remember there was this huge company, one of the biggest in the Philippines. I get a call from them. Do you do strategic planning? For what company? They say the company. Huge. I say yes. I don't even know what the hell strat plan is.
That's fun.
And I was given what? About a couple of weeks to prepare. So, here comes Mr. Google. Right? I Google everything. In 2 weeks' time, I'm able to finish it. We go to Anvaya Code. That's where we hold the strat plan for 4 days. And they were very happy about it.
Actually, George, I can't help but think that one of the things that you have that other people might not have is courage.
Precisely. No, I don't think it's courage because I'm scared. I usually am scared. You won't believe it, RV. Ever since 15 years old, I was in radio already. Until the last time I was in radio, I've always been scared of going on board 15, 30 minutes before my program. Every single day.
No.
I am not kidding you. There was always that factor of nervousness.
Wow. But just for the benefit of, the people, like, how many radio stations, George, have you put up already? Like, over the
Put
years?
up, let me see, KISS, Zoo, cool. 3 stations, I set up 3 stations. No, 4. I set up EI, so 4 stations. No, 5, XB. So I've set up 5 stations already.
And aside from that, you also, I think, were a DJ in other stations.
Yes, RT, 106, WLS. I started out in an AM radio station, and then martial law somehow hindered my growth in radio, so I had to stop, went on studying, ended up being a dumb disc jockey again. I took a pre-divinity. I wanted to be a priest. Okay. Never materialized. And next thing I knew, I was back in... I started producing my own music materials. I started mixing tapes. There were no DJs before, party DJs or whatever. So I figured if I can do something about that, if I could create a program where nobody would stop dancing, because before, they used to play a song on a vinyl, right? After the song, that's it. Everybody sits down waiting for the next song to be played. So what I did, I had a tape recorder at home, an open reel deck, and a turntable. So what I did was put songs together. That was a pseudo mix, so to speak. And providentially, that was also the time when hotels were being built here in Manila for the IMF conference. So when the hotels came up, they didn't have any entertainment facilities. They heard about me. They asked me if I could supply them with music. And that's what I did. I brought the tapes, played it, got paid, brought home the tapes. And it went on and on. Somebody called me up and said he heard I was interested in production. I said, yeah. Next thing I know, I was back on air. And then, here comes Malacanang calling. I become the DJ of Malacanang. One thing led to another. I got pirated by RT, and it went on and on and on. So it was just a matter of, I guess, okay, fine, probably it's courage, but it's more than that. It's treading the unknown, so to speak, because a lot of people have this fear of the unknown. But for me, how will you know if you don't know? One of the worst things that could ever happen to you in your life, and I'm telling all you viewers now, right, is if in the future you ask yourself, what if? And then rue the fact that you didn't do it or you did it. So you have to avoid asking, what if? How do you do that? Take the bull by its horns. Never say no. If you don't make it, if you fail, hey, there's nothing wrong with failing. Yeah. See? Simple as that. I'm probably the oldest person on Spotify.
No. Well, actually, George, the title is Overcoming the Fear of Public Speaking. But it looks like you're talking about overcoming the fear of living life. I mean, there's so many things that you could do, right?
So many things. Actually, I never really even thought about these things until I was speaking with my son one time. He's in Boston now. I sent him to Fordham University in New York. He studied college there, university, and then he entered McCann Erickson initially in New York, and then was recruited by Gary Vaynerchuk, the Gary V.
Yeah, I heard, yeah.
So he was recruited, and he became a strategy person in Gary V's agency until he was pirated by an agency in Minnesota. So he transferred to Minnesota, stayed there for about 4 years, and then the pandemic hit. He got laid off. And, of course, we thought it was going to be the end of the world for him. In a couple of weeks, he just sent out CVs left and right. In a couple of weeks, he got a job as vice president for strategy of an agency in Boston.
Wow.
So he's now in Boston now. So we were talking, and I was asking him for ideas because I was running out of ideas already. Radio was nowhere in sight. And he told me, why don't you be the Gary V of the Philippines?
Oh.
And I told him, there's a Gary V in the Philippines already. Gary Valencia. And he said, Gary Vaynerchuk. Like, oh, what do you mean? Give talks about life. Give talks about attitude or whatever. With your wealth of experience and knowledge, I'm sure you won't run out of things to say. And that gave birth to what I'm doing now.
Wow. And it's an interesting story, like what you just told about. This is Marty, right? Like your son.
Marty, right. Yeah. Marty.
So getting laid off at the time of pandemic is probably one of the most frightening things that can happen to you.
Yes, that's right.
And this actually paved the way for him to become a VP.
Yes, that's right.
Actually, George, when you said that story, like, the thing that came to mind is a lot of people are scared. And generally, for those who do overcome the fear, they are opening up new chapters of their lives. Like, I see people cooking or selling plants.
You know, the pandemic has done a lot of things for a lot of people. I have this phrase. I use it all the time. Desperation breeds creativity. Right? When you're desperate, you become more creative. And that's what's happening to people nowadays. They learn how to cook, they bake, or plant, or whatever, and get into business. That's the nice thing about it. Yeah. And hopefully it keeps on going, because we're never ever going to go back to what we were before. That's totally impossible nowadays. You yourself, what kind of lifestyle do you have now?
Well, working from home, it's a whole new thing. And then this is the very first video that we're uploading. So I guess you can say this is a product of desperation.
But you know, there's a caveat there. Desperation breeds creativity. That's nice. But there's one thing I just want to tell a lot of young people nowadays. Avoid cramming. Because once you become dependent on desperation breeds creativity, it's going to breed laziness. There's no substitute for time management. That is very important. I had this classmate in college. He was always number one in our class. He kept on getting the highest grades stuff. And every time we had exams, we would be at the cafeteria. And we'd be cramming with our notes. You know what he's doing while we're cramming? He's playing poker at the other table.
Wow.
So he's playing poker. And then about 10 minutes before classes start, he leaves the table, gets his notebook from his back pocket, and just scans it. We go to the classroom, we take the exam, he gets the highest grade.
How did that happen?
One time, I just had to ask him how to do it. And, he said, George, every time we have a class and we have a lecture, I pay attention. And I try to absorb everything that the professor is saying. Why? When you absorb something, it gets stored in your brain. It doesn't leave your brain anymore. It's just like a sponge. So what happens? He doesn't even have to review anymore because it's here already. When exam time comes, all he has to do is squeeze that brain of his, and out comes the knowledge. That was pretty good advice, and somehow I got into that. Knowledge is power. There's this commentator in DZMM before who said that knowledge is power, and that's very, very true. You don't have knowledge, you can't talk about anything. Can't talk about anything, you're never going to be good in communication. And communication skills are, as far as I'm concerned, the most important in your life. They're the most important things in your life. Why? If you could communicate properly and you listen well, what happens? People are going to gravitate to you, and that's where you start your success, your road to success.
Actually, George, I can see that we should do a part 2 of this.
Of course.
Something related to communication.
How long have we been talking already?
I have no idea. I'll figure it out. So, George has a masterclass, Overcoming the Fear of Public Speaking. And
It's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's going to be dropping the 10th of September. So it's dropping on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You're free to tune in. Just click on Masterclass George Boone on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
And George, once this gets loaded in there, it stays there, right?
It stays there. They can click on it anytime they want to. You didn't understand me? Okay, listen to it again. Then after a week, another episode is going to be loaded, so you're going to have 2 episodes there, etc., etc., etc.
And this is amazing. I mean, considering that it's free, George, because as you mentioned, George is a trainer at John Robert Powers. I know for a fact that he has built the careers of so many people that we all know. I mean, I just don't want to name drop who these people are. And I personally have learned a lot from you. I mean, I remember, George, the first time that we went on air, that radio station went on air. It's like you transformed. So there's that everyday George, and there's that George. The moment he turns on the microphone, it's like there's this beast who suddenly. And I remember, I was talking to a guy, and he was one of the people from ABC5 back then. I said, I wonder how he does that. And then you know what he said? He just said, that's because George is a showman. And that was the first time that I realized, there is something that comes out the moment you turn on the microphone. And for people who are attending this masterclass, for them to discover their own gift of public speaking by overcoming it, I think you are going to be helping a lot of people, improve their careers, improve their chances of getting a promotion, and maybe just overall get rid of their fear, whatever that may be.
And learn how to live life.
Yep, that is amazing. Okay, so thank you very much, George. You
Thank
are
you.
the very first person I featured on.
Thank you, RV. Hope we could do this again.
Yep. On a weekend, yes, you can definitely.
Yeah, right.
Thank you very much, George. And
all right.
see you around.
Thank you very much. See you. Bye.